This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, we have an incredibly talented guest that burst onto the fantasy football scene after joining the amazing team at Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life in 2022. She is a senior analyst and director of social media at Fantasy Life and is considered by many, including myself, the greatest ball girl in the history of the Seattle Mariners. It's Kendall Valenzuela. Welcome in, my friend.
Hello. What a great intro. I'm like, oh my gosh, the best at what? And then I'm like, you know what? I'll take the best ball girl for the Seattle Mariners. But hands down, I love that intro. So I'm so excited to be here with you, Kevin. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, for sure. You know, I've always enjoyed our conversations at industry events, truly, and I'm excited to have you on the podcast for sure.
Yeah, it should be a fun one.
Should we spend the next hour talking about the Mariners, our Mariners, and Julio, or should we talk about some other things?
No, that's what I figured. I didn't even need to see a show sheet because I was like, you know what? I'm just going to blow it all up because we're just going to talk Seattle Mariners and Seattle Seahawks the whole time. So, and then we could get into like the Kraken. We could talk about a Sonics comeback. So I don't think we need anything else besides Seattle sports talk tonight.
Sounds good. Sounds good. No. Let's begin by rewinding back to you growing up in the Pacific Northwest. Were you a huge sports fan growing up as a kid?
Huge sports fan. That's why I'm so excited. When I learned where you lived, I was like, oh, this is perfect. I can always talk to him about anything Seattle. But yeah, I was a huge sports fan growing up. My dad coached high school football. He was out at Lindbergh High School, kind of down in the South End. That's where I grew up, about 20 minutes south of downtown Seattle. So yeah, always grew up a huge sports fan, was huge Mariners fan, obviously growing up. They're just like near and dear to my heart. My parents had Sonics season ticket holders. They were there. I was at a game when I think they said 15 days old. They took me to a Sonics game. And then, we know what happened with the Sonics, but that's okay. We don't need to get into it. So I have always loved sports, have always just grown up around sports. And so that's just where I get my love from.
That's awesome. So when did you decide that you wanted to pursue a career in sports journalism?
Oh my gosh, I was super young. I think I remember there's a video somewhere out there, and maybe I should hit up some of my old classmates because one of them has it on a CD where we're sitting there, I think in the 4th grade, and we sat and we were asked what we wanted to be when we grow up, and I said a sports broadcaster and journalist. So I've known forever that that's what I've wanted to do, and I'm just super lucky and just super blessed that we can even be in this position that I can say that and then go achieve those goals. So it's been since I was really young, and I'm super happy that I stuck with it and said that really early and then stuck with it all the way through until now.
That's awesome. Well, your talent shines through in everything you do. So it's been awesome to see you come onto the scene. So tell me about your experience at Arizona State and your time working in sports radio in Denver.
Yeah. Arizona State was so fun. First of all, forks up. Absolutely love Arizona State. If anyone's thinking about sending their kid or you're thinking about going there, please, my DMs are always open because I had such a great time. I mean, Arizona State, I went to the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. And so to me, I knew that I needed to go for my goals. I knew I needed to go to a really good journalism school. And Kevin, that we've got the Edward R. Murrow School of Journalism down there at WSU, which is another incredible school. But Arizona State, I was just like, the sunshine, let's get out of the rain. Let's get away from all the bad weather. And so I went down there, and Cronkite seriously set me up for so much success. And I owe a lot to that school and to the teachers that always told me that we could achieve what we set out to do. So we were doing a lot of hands-on work. And I think that was so important early on in my career, especially when we started, I learned how to write. I was an editor. I was the first female sports editor for our newspaper over there. And so I covered the soccer team, the softball team. I wrote, I stayed out late to games. I edited, I shot my own shots, doing video work and edited those scripts and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of turned me into this Swiss Army knife. So when I was ready to graduate, it was so nice because I knew a lot about everything that needed to be done in a newsroom or in, a sports setting. And so to be able to have that and then go out into the world and, be seen and be hired as someone because they liked what we were able to show them right out of college, it made a huge, huge difference in the hiring process for sure.
That's awesome. And then you ended up going to Denver
Yes. Love Denver. I love Denver. Denver's beautiful. Denver has my heart. I mean, Seattle obviously has my heart
Sure.
forever. Denver was one where I just, it's so beautiful. The people there are absolutely incredible. They are such, oh my gosh, they're such knowledgeable sports fans too. So I was an intern in Denver for Sports Radio 104.3 The Fan. And then after that, I did that for a summer and then was hired on. And it was so fun because it was something, Kevin, that I like did not expect to do. Like you never say, "Oh my gosh, I want to go into sports," and then you pivot to radio. And sometimes you think when you're doing that, like, "Oh, should I be taking this job? Is it too far away from what I want?" And I think that's always my biggest when I tell people, "Hey, if you're looking, if you're looking for jobs, you should never say no to any kind of opportunity, even if you don't think it's in your wheelhouse. And of course, if it doesn't fit your niche or what you want to do, don't do it, but don't be afraid to take the risk." So I did Denver Sports Radio. I was their social media manager for them. And then they allowed me to be on air sometimes during Broncos games. We did that. I was also doing video work for them. So it was so fun to be able to learn new skills there and kind of just hone in on what I love to do and talk about the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos were bad when I was there, so I apologize to everyone for that. Like it was not a good few years covering the Broncos, but it was so fun to be, on the air, and all that stuff from Denver Sports Radio really helped me become, the broadcaster that I am today. And so it's crazy when you look back and you say, wow, I can't believe I did, sports radio. And now you come full circle a few years later and I'm still doing sports radio, which is just absolutely wild to think about.
That's awesome. Now in Denver, are they over the 43-8 Super
No,
Bowl
no,
48 deal or
no,
no? No.
no, but I respect them a lot because they just don't talk about it. Right. It was such a huge blowout that they're like, what can you say? I mean,
Yeah.
you knew from that first snap and then the safety that happened and you're like, oh my gosh, this is not going to end well for them. It ended well, for us. That was a great day, but yeah, not good, but they don't talk about it. So that's okay. And I respect that about them a lot.
Yeah, obviously winning Super Bowl 50 probably,
Yeah,
is part of
exactly.
that,
That was a
right?
little
Yeah.
bit better. That was set up for them a lot better than probably what could have happened the year before.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably
So
years before.
so when did you first discover fantasy football?
You know what? It's funny. I always played fantasy, but never to this level. I mean, I feel like everyone can say that because this level that we're at, we're actually crazy. And I can fully, I fully say that to everyone. It's just like some degenerate stuff that goes on sometimes with best ball and everything. But I remember my dad would always play fantasy football with our family and family friends. So he would be the commissioner. He would host the party every single year. And, the way that they like to pick their draft order was by a deck of cards. And so but I would be the one that always got to pick everyone's cards. So
Oh.
it would really affect what I got for Christmas that year for sure. Because if I gave my uncle, he's like, he got, the 12 spot, he's like, okay, we're bumping you down like $50 because you did that. But no, I always loved and was interested in football. Football is a sport that I've always loved to cover. I love baseball a lot, but football's that one where I'm just like, oh man, it is just so fun to get into. And so fantasy football especially became bigger when I was hired with Matthew Berry in Fantasy Life. So I always played, but never really covered fantasy football just as extensively as we do now. So being able to get into it and to really focus on, running backs, quarterbacks, tight ends, wide receivers, it has just honestly made me fall more in love with football and just the analysis and the strategy that you go for. So that's a really long story to just say I've always loved fantasy, but now I, love it even more because it's just something we get to talk about every single day and we get to do it every day too. So it's just been
Yeah.
so fun.
That's awesome. So how comfortable were you when you first started creating content for fantasy?
I was comfortable. I was comfortable, but I was in a boot camp for sure. It was a consume as much as you can. And I think, that made me even better, right? Because I knew football. I know football for sure. Coming over from Pro Football Focus and doing all the jobs that I've done, you can't get this far without knowing what you're talking about. And I think I wouldn't say pressure, but I think I was nervous. And I think if you don't do something that makes you a little nervous, then your goals probably aren't high enough, right? I knew that what I was doing and when I was nervous doing it, that I was first of all, learning, which I think is so important because you can never know too much. And the second thing was I knew I was really passionate about it when I was ready to stay up as late as we do learning and to make sure that I knew everything and just consumed as much as I did. So I was comfortable, but I'm still uncomfortable sometimes talking about things. And I think that's really good because it just shows, hey, there's a lot more to learn. But
Yeah.
also it just makes me excited because I love learning. And so I love, consuming content, listening to your podcast and all the guests that you have and reading as much as I can. So it's been a really fun process this last year.
That's awesome. What has so
Yeah.
what has your experience been like with this amazing team at Fantasy Life?
Oh my gosh, aren't they crazy that they just keep
Amazing.
adding? It's
Yeah,
like
that's
it's just
awesome.
like it's like we came on. I mean, I was hired ooh, last June I was hired, and it's been a year, a year and a month, and the growth that I've seen from just the whole team in general has been crazy because Elliot Christ, our CEO, and Jordan Fiegelman, our director of content, they came to me and they saw me putting out pro football focus betting podcast stuff, and they saw me do some video work. And it's just I always have to shout them out. And of course, the big boss, Matthew Berry, because they saw something in me that said, hey, she would be a really good addition. And it feels so good when you're not really seeking something out and something comes to you. And so from then, it was me and them and Peter Overs that really were some of the main full-time people. And then we just keep adding. And then you add, Dwayne McFarland into it and Ian Hartitz. And then now recently, I mean, Matthew Friedman and everyone. And it's just absolutely, Matt McEwen is now with us too. So the on-air talent and everything that goes through it, I mean, we're just building something really special. And I think it just comes full circle for me that I get so excited every day to log on and to talk to them and to talk fantasy and to talk how much bigger we can get, because we just launched a new website, which is absolutely incredible to see, and all the hard work that they put into it. So it's just a ton of people that are really passionate about fantasy football and passionate about people learning the space too, to just accept everyone that wants to come in and say, hey, we're going to teach you, or from there to people that have been playing it forever and just want to keep winning and keep getting better. So the team is crazy, and it's just an all-star cast, and I'm just so happy to be included in it.
That's awesome. Yeah, the website is
Oh my
incredible.
gosh, isn't it
Yeah.
crazy?
tell
I
tell
couldn't
us
believe it.
it looks great. So tell us about some of the features on there, some of the
Oh
things
my
that
gosh.
Fantasy Life is offering.
We're first of all, we're offering everything, and it's completely free. I just have to do the shameless plug right now, Kevin, because it's
Yeah.
completely free, and it's something that was such a not even a passion project. It was just something that we knew we needed to stand out in this space. And first of all, to make it free is just mind-boggling in its own, but we have everything that you could ever want to be able to go into your fantasy leagues and just feel really confident about what we're doing. And I think that's the most important part. We want you to be as educated as you want to be. So from all the articles we post, we've got, rankings from Matthew Friedman and Dwayne McFarland and Ian Hartitz. We've got ADP. We've got a best ball hub that you can put in. You can download your underdog CVS or CSV, whatever it's called, and upload it to our website. And we can tell you how much player exposure you have and what, you need to be doing better. So, and then in the season, I mean, we've got rate my trade, and we've got more rankings and who should I start, who should I bench, all that good stuff. So it's all completely free. And I recommend everyone just to go and check it out. And if it's not something that you love, then you have to message me and say how we could do better, because I don't know how much better we can get than the free website.
Yeah, and the newsletter, right? I mean, the newsletter
Oh
is
man, the newsletter
awesome.
is fantastic. And again, 100% free. So if you love fantasy football and you love inside information, just go subscribe. But yeah, I mean, Peter Overzet and the whole group, when we write that and curate it, we just do an incredible job. So between the newsletter and the website, Kevin, I don't know, you can be the smartest fantasy player out there if you go and read all that stuff, or at least we're trying to make you be. So it's really fun. And I think the best part about it for me is how we make sure that, like I said about inclusion, like everything on there can be from someone that's just starting out or someone that's been playing for years and years and years. So we make sure that everyone from who's just starting out to the very other degree of that is ready to consume our content. And that's just something I'm super proud of too.
That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. Let's talk about the fantasy football community. What was it like for you to discover the
Oh my
fantasy football
gosh.
community, get embraced by the community, and see and discover all the amazing people in it.
Yeah, everyone's absolutely incredible. I think I've said this for a year straight now that everyone was just so welcoming, and that is so tough to find in I think personally with all my friends in a lot of sports communities. I think fantasy football is one of the best that you can have because everyone was just again so welcoming. I got a ton of messages when I was hired a year ago saying, "Hey, if you ever need anything, if you need help, if you don't know something, please let me know." I mean, I was thrown into a lot of podcasts where I was just checking my messages and saying like, "Oh my gosh, are you sure? I'm just getting into this. We're just figuring things out." But no, the community, and still, I mean, still to right now, everyone in this fantasy space just I feel like are so passionate about fantasy football and they welcome anyone that tries to join it. And so it's been really good. And again, I just feel it sounds so corny, but I feel so blessed to be in it because there are other things, it could not be that way. And it could just
Yeah.
be, where we're all competitors and which, to some extent we do compete. Sometimes we overlap with each other, but the sense of community that it feels like, it's so nice to be around.
Yeah, and on that note, tell me about your experience at the expo.
Oh my gosh. You're going this year?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
thank goodness. Oh my gosh, thank goodness. No, the expo is absolutely incredible again. I mean, I didn't know about the expo, Kevin, until it was thrown on me by Jordan Elliott. They say, "Hey, by the way, there's this fantasy football expo. You're going, and it's just going to be a weekend in Canton, Ohio." And I said, "Okay, that's fine." I just came from Cincinnati, mind you, so I moved from Cincinnati to LA, and then about a month and a half later, they were like, "Can we put you on a flight and go back to Ohio?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Why not? I just came from there." So no, the expo is, first of all, just shout out to everyone. I mean, to Bob, to everyone that puts it together, because that amount of people that are able to be there and all the activities that you can do, again, just blow my mind. And then, yeah, to be
Yeah.
able to see all our, it's so funny to be able to see all our internet friends in real life. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know you from your profile and I know you from your profile. And it would be so funny because sometimes I would go up to people and I would say, "I know we know each other, but I only know you by your Twitter handle. So I would love if you would just tell me your name again." But it's the most fun weekend ever. I'm so excited that you're going again, and it's just great. Like we've got the Kings Classic, the Queens Classic now coming this year. You've got Sirius XM doing drafts. You've got poker tournaments. I mean, it's just for everyone. So I recommend too, if you're listening and you haven't bought a ticket, maybe think about a nice trip to Canton, Ohio, to go to the Fantasy Football Expo because it's a good time.
I fully endorse that for sure.
Right?
Yeah, let's dive into some rapid fire questions. I'll throw out
Let's
a
do it.
question.
Oh
You
my gosh,
just
I'm
tell me
ready.
what comes to mind.
Yeah.
What do you love most about fantasy sports?
Oh my gosh, what do I love more? I love the research of it. And I know that's probably like a really lame answer to it, but I love how every single week, especially with fantasy football, you have to constantly change and adapt. So it's not, and I love best ball, so don't get me wrong there. I love drafting my teams and then you draft them and you forget them and you check back later and hopefully you have, $3 million in your bank account from winning. But I do love the research that goes into it. And I love that you can have any kind of strategy you want going into it, but it's probably going to blow up in your face and you have to pivot on the fly. So anything of fantasy, but especially fantasy football, just you got to be sharp. You got to be paying attention to everything, the news, what the weather's like, what the opponents are like, everything that goes on in front of you. You have to adapt. So I love that the most.
That's a great answer. Great answer. Share your thoughts on the Scott Fish Bowl and
Oh,
specifically SFBLA.
oh my gosh. First of all, I've got my draft this Saturday. So, I'm getting ready for it. Not really. I'm gonna show up and I hope that I draft really well. But first of all, Scott Fish has to be one of the most amazing human beings on the planet. And so for him to be able to again set this up every single year and have so many people involved and ready and willing to do it is just so fun. So shout out to Scott Fish, first of all. Second of all, I'm excited. I'm excited for Scott Fishbowl LA. Again, you're gonna be there?
Yep.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh. This is the best podcast ever because I'm just learning all this. I knew you were gonna be there, but I wanted to check and make sure before I just threw it out there. Yeah,
Indeed.
again, you get to meet everyone again and you get to go and we're gonna be at Trophy Smack headquarters. So that's gonna be super fun. Last year we had to play games to get our to get where we're drafting from to get our position. And we don't have to do that this year, which I'm super thankful because I was not good at most of those games. So I'm super excited. Like I don't have to play darts. I don't have to do other things that were also hard, like bowling. Hello, I'm not a good bowler. So I'm super glad I did not have to do that again. But I'm super excited. I'm interested if you have any, tips or anything, or if you see anything in the scoring, just let me know. Cause I know it's tight end premium this year. So I'm drafting from the 4 spot. So I'm hoping Travis Kelce falls, but I don't think Travis Kelce is going to fall to 4 this year.
It's possible. I mean, in a live draft, anything goes, right?
Right?
So
I
who
think I'm just
knows?
gonna get in people's heads or something. Just say, "Oh, you don't want Travis Kelce. There's an age
Yeah.
cliff. He's gonna fall off. You don't want to. Don't waste your pick. Go get an elite quarterback while you're right there, and then just let him fall to
Yeah.
me."
Exactly. I'm hoping people are having just too much fun that they're just
Right?
distracted,
That's what
right?
I'm thinking.
I
And
think
it
I
happens.
I think if we stay focused, I think we'll
Yes.
dominate.
Where are you drafting from?
I am in the 9th spot.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. See, we're far
So
enough away where I feel like you and I could
totally.
kind of
We can
collab, you know?
collaborate.
I said
Exactly.
that with Sam Holt too, because last year was my first year. So I just told Sam, I said, hey, I'm not going to cramp your style or anything, but I'm going to sit right next to you and we're drafting right next to each other. So I'm just going to need some of your advice. And I tell the story where I picked from 4 last year and I made it to the semifinals. So I wanted to keep the good vibes going. And I think it was a bit of beginner's luck, but that's okay. And I wanted to keep the same draft position this year. So I stayed at 4, but Sam's at 12 because she wanted that 3rd round reversal. She thought that would be important. So I said, okay, again, another year, but now we're not close to each other. So between you, me, and Sam, I feel like we can have really good teams and just work off each other.
It's possible. We'll see what we can do for sure. All right. Would you rather see the Mariners win the World Series, the Sonics return to Seattle, or to relive the entire Legion of Boom era, but this time
Oh.
Marshawn gets the handoff on the goal line and we go
Oh
back to
my
back?
gosh, what a hard question. I've never been asked a tougher question than this. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I'm gonna take oh gosh, it sounds so bad. I'm gonna take the Sonics out of it, although I would love to see that. But since I would love it for you, but since I'm not living in Seattle, I think I would have FOMO every single day that they were playing. But I can't wait until they return back to Seattle, and it'll be absolutely incredible. Oh my gosh. I think I'm gonna have to go with the Mariners. I'm gonna have to go with the Mariners because I was in high school when the Seahawks won that Super Bowl. So it was super fun and I got to live that. I got to go to the parade. It was great. We skipped school that day. Everything was shut down. Seattle was shut down and it was the best. Were you there? Were you at the parade?
I did not go to the parade, no.
Okay.
But
It was cold.
I was in the city. I mean, it was
It was
amazing.
freezing. It was
Yeah.
awesome. So I would have to say Mariners World Series for sure. Because even last year, last year I remember messaging you back
Yeah.
and forth when they got to when they won the wild card game
Yeah.
against Toronto, and I was like, okay, couldn't believe that they even did that. Because to me, Kevin, when the Mariners were going, I was super proud of them for making the wild card, but to me, that's not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I said, hey, the drought, people said, oh, the drought's over, they're in the playoffs. And I'm like, no, they need to win this game and get in to be in the actual playoffs and not just this wild card stuff. So I always told my mom when we were growing up, I said, if the Mariners whenever they make the playoffs, we're going to go to one of those games because that's just what we have to do. So we made an agreement on that and the World Series that whenever they go, we're going to buy tickets. So I remember I flew home for I think 32 hours to go to that 18 inning
Oh my
game, which
gosh.
was absolutely brutal and heartbreaking and just exhausting all at the same time. But it was so, and I remember I cried a ton during that game because they had Felix there, they had Ichiro sending messages, and Macklemore was there, of course, because he's like the king of Seattle and Seattle music. So I cried there. So I can't imagine if they made a World Series, I might have to take a week off of work. So hopefully that happens this year, but who knows?
Yeah. No, I think that's the right choice. I think
It has to be.
what we've been through as Seattle Mariners fans,
Ugh.
I got to experience Griffey. That's amazing. Obviously,
Yes.
Ichiro era was fun, but
Oh,
the drought has
we
just
need
been
it.
way too long.
We
So
need it. I'll meet you
yeah,
at the
we do.
World Series game though.
Sounds
We
good.
can make a bet. We can make a pact on that and just say, hey,
Sounds
I'll
good.
meet you there. We'll figure out which game. Maybe the cheaper one if we can,
Yeah.
because that'll
Yeah.
just break our wallets. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's the one to go for sure.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Now the foundation of fantasy, I mean, to me, it's that fantasy league experience, and nothing's better than like a live draft.
Yes.
What's your favorite memories from a home league and experience with live drafts?
I think I only grew up knowing live drafts. I think that's the first part of it. That's all, and that's what I love about home leagues, right? Because we can have all these other leagues, but to me, and I am always competitive in all my other leagues, but to me that home league, just the one that you've had for years and years and years and years, and you've built friendships on it, and you guys have all gone through life together, but that one day a year where you get to come together, do your draft together in your living room or whatever, you order all the pizzas. I think that's the best part for me. And so I love live drafts because you get to shoot the shit with people that you obviously know and that you like a lot to be in your league. And so my fondest memories again was I always, when I was little, I got to pick the draft order until I was really bad one day. I probably gave my dad, this horrible spot. He never liked drafting in the middle. So probably it was one of those days where he was like, "Oh yeah, you're not picking anymore. You're too old for this. You can just join the league now." And so I think it was always doing that and having all my family come over to our house. And it would always, especially in high school, like I would get home from soccer practice and I would see like 10 cars in the driveway and parked along the street. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's draft night. It's draft night.
Oh,
It's that night in September. So that was the best part, is just coming home, knowing that all these, some random people, but all these people would be home. It's the best feeling, I think.
yeah, that's really cool to have that sentimental kind of
Right?
impact. I love
It's
that.
the
That's cool.
best. It's the best, especially when
That's
it's
great.
family, because then
Yeah,
they just talk trash, and that's how you learn to love it, right? I mean, I feel like
yeah.
so many people, especially with fantasy football, all have a moment or a memory where they just said, "You know what? I like this a lot." And look at how lucky we are to be talking about fantasy football, and it's the
Yeah.
middle of July. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's just so cool to be able to do that.
I love it. How about last place punishments? Are there anything that
Oh.
you've done before or things that you think are just crazy and wild out there?
You know what? I will say, thankfully, I've never had to do a last place punishment. So maybe Matthew Berry saw that record and said, "Okay, she's coming 11th a couple times, but that's okay. We'll accept that." No,
That was
so
on your
that's
resume?
yeah, exactly. I was like, I've never lost. I was one of those people. I haven't. I won. I definitely last year, man. Last year, I almost got kicked out of some leagues because they looked at my job and they were like, "This cannot be fair," because you know us. I mean, we're scouring the waiver wire. We've got all the updates coming from Schefter and everything, all the notifications on. So some of them were like, "This can't be fair. This can't be real," but it was, and I won a good amount last year. But I will say, last place punishments last season, I had one of my teams, because all my friends now from college, especially, we're all over the place. Like, we cannot draft in one single location because we're spread out all over the country. So last year we did a bet for the license plate, and I thought that was
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
embarrassing for whoever. We
Yeah.
got the pink one with the unicorns on it, and it
Yeah.
says like I suck at fantasy football, and they had to put that on their car for a year.
Yeah.
That's pretty embarrassing. So I love those ones, and any kind of public humiliation. I really do enjoy those for me, because I don't have to do them most of the time. So I think the funny one that I saw last year that was super creative was the guy going to take the SAT. And he
Yeah.
was, I always think those are hilarious because, one, that poor man paid money to take the SAT and sit there
Yeah.
for a whole day. You remember taking the SAT. It wasn't just a couple hours.
Yeah.
You brought a bagged lunch to the SAT. Like, that's how long it was, and your
Yeah.
number two pencils. And so you're probably just sitting there. One, I would hate that because, I mean, realistically, if you ask me to go back and do, math and stuff, it's not going to work out well. So my self-esteem would be low enough. And then just coming out of there with however old you are when you take the SATs is just probably not fun. So that's a good one to me.
That was definitely a fun one to see for
It
sure.
was. What's yours? Do you have a good one for me?
Gosh. Well, I right now I'm going over 100 different ones. So there's,
Okay. Oh, on
all
TikTok.
over. Yeah.
I've loved watching those on TikTok. If you see any of them like saved, that's definitely me, because I'm
Oh,
like, "Oh, I
fun.
like this one."
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's so many. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of all the permanent ones. I mean,
Yeah, no.
if another league wants to do them, that's fun. I love to see the content. I love to see what people are doing. But to me, for my home league, my daughter and I made like just the most hideous, like 6 foot tall trophy that the loser has to have in their house
Oh, I
during the next
love
season.
that.
So something like that is great. The license plate's great. Obviously,
Yeah.
at the next draft, wearing a last place
Wearing 'em, I
shirt
love
or an
yeah.
outfit or something. I mean, those are all fun
Exactly.
for
Those
sure.
are all funny. I like the really nice ones too, where people donate to charity. I absolutely
Yes.
love when people do that one. Or the guy, I know my family did this one sometimes, where whoever lost just had to buy all the food and the drinks for next year's draft. Right. That's always
Yeah.
a really if you're just starting out and you want to be a really nice commissioner, or you just don't want to get a tattoo on your butt, if you lose,
Yeah.
that's obviously a really good one to go for too.
For sure. Or like last place buys the champion a ring from Trophy
Exactly,
Smack, right?
exactly. That's a good one. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. So what have been your biggest challenges that you've faced in your journey so far?
Yeah, I think some of my biggest ones have just been again going back to the learning process because sports in general, especially growing up, I knew a lot and you always think you know enough, but you never do. Especially there's always someone else out there that's going to push you and make you a lot better. And that's just watching whatever you watch, podcasts or reading, like there's always people out there that really are going to push you. So I think some of the biggest challenges for me has just been being able to adapt to that and to keep learning. I think has been tough, especially when you're put in some situations like when I was in Denver, for example. They said, "Hey, we want you," and I absolutely love this job, so this wasn't bad at all, but it was a thing where maybe people around you know that you're ready to do something, and in your mind you're like, "Oh, man, I don't think I could. I don't think I'm capable of doing this." But everyone, when you have a good group around you and they say, "Hey, you're ready for this." You may not think that you're ready for this, but you're going to do it anyway. We're going to push you to do it anyways. So in Denver, I remember they said, "Hey, we're going to go live during Broncos games for however, I think that's 3 hours. And we're going to be live the whole time on the radio. And we just want instant analysis and breakdown with you and two other people." And I thought to myself, "Oh my gosh, I can't do this." And I remember prepping for a really, like, probably just way too long prepping for that game, for that Broncos game. And the worst part was, Kevin, that it was preseason. So it was even worse because it wasn't even, I mean, I couldn't even prepare for who the fourth string running back that was going in that. I could not
Yeah.
know that information just starting out. But I think that's one of the biggest parts, and one thing that I tell people all the time is that you are confident and you are here for a reason, and you're put in a position for a reason as well. So if you've gotten this far, you can't come this far just because you don't know nothing. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
always a battle with yourself to just know that you're here for a reason. You've made it this far for a reason. And it's that hard work and that work ethic that got you here. So if people tell you, "Hey, you're ready to go," first of all, always make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that will always tell you the truth. Because I know right now, I knew in jobs previously that they will always tell me, "Hey, you're ready to do this," or "Hey, let's take some time and practice and be a little bit more ready," especially coming into a fantasy space where I didn't talk fantasy football all the time. And so, for them then later on to say, "Hey, you're ready to go on to Sirius XM, like you're ready to have a 5-day a week show." I had to first of all just mentally know that I was ready and that they weren't going to put me in a situation where I was going to fail, and then just know that you have to keep working hard to be able to stay at the top of the game that you're at, but you're there for a reason, I think.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So what have you learned the most about yourself over the last few years?
Yeah, I've learned, especially over the last few years, that confidence is key here. And you can try and fake it till you make it, but being confident in what you're doing and just kind of, for me at least, following your gut, I think is something that I've learned a lot. That little voice inside your head or inside your stomach usually knows everything that it needs to. So I think being able to trust myself in situations when writing or learning or talking has been something that I've found to know and love about myself. And then the same thing goes for back to the studying stuff. It's just that you can never know too much and you can almost never over prepare. So I think that's been really a fun journey to learn, is that how much information you can consume and keep in, and how much you can just grow in such a small amount of time if you put the work in, has just been super fun to see. Because I watched videos even from last year to now, and it's completely night and day. Not that it was bad last year, but it's just gotten a lot better. And I think it becomes a lot better with my confidence and, being able to learn and to consume like I do. So that's just been, even my family says that. They're like, oh my gosh, you're doing a lot better than last year. We've seen your growth, and I absolutely love to hear that. And I don't think anyone should ever take that in a negative way, because we all just, we all get better as we do all these reps and as we continue to learn and grow. So that's been a super, super fun thing to watch.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience on the Women of Fantasy Football panel at the expo.
Oh my gosh, that was such a fun day too. I
Yeah.
mean, that was absolutely incredible. And I love, that whole group of women they're just absolutely phenomenal. And so when they said we were doing a panel, I said, yep, call what time? When do we need to be there? I'll be there for 5 hours. I'll be there for 12 hours. I'll be there for 35 minutes. It does not matter to me, because that is something that is so near and dear to my heart and special. So when we were able to do it and had that packed room, it kind of goes back to what you asked me about earlier in this show, which was about the fantasy football community and just how we really rally around things that we absolutely know and love and that are near and dear to our hearts. So to have a full room of people, spilling out the front door to the room just felt so good, because you always feel heard when those things kind of happen. So to be able to do that and to hopefully do it again this year is just something that I'm excited for.
Yeah, it was a really, really cool thing to
Oh my
witness for
gosh, it was
sure.
so fun. It was so
Yeah.
fun. So, and then we're
Yeah.
doing the Queen's Classic, so it'll be a great time again.
It should be for sure.
Yeah.
Name a few people that have had a massive impact on you during your journey in the fantasy space.
Oh my gosh, there've been a lot, and I know that whenever I get asked this, I always seemingly leave out some people, but I would say first, my whole family. My whole family has been absolutely amazing, and honestly, the people that I'm with right now have really helped shape me and grow. And even from Pro Football Focus to Sports Radio 104.3 The Fan, I think I've been so lucky to be surrounded by groups of people that have always wanted to see me succeed. And I know that not everyone gets that. And that's my hope for everyone when they come into any kind of sports media space, even sports in general, that they find people that won't kind of dampen your mood or what you think you want your future to be. So there's been a lot of people. I mean, right now it's Elliot and it's Jordan and it's Matthew Berry, and then so many, my old program directors and everyone that I've come in contact with. But I think that's what's so important when I tell people too, is that I fully believe that I'm in the position that I'm in right now because no one around me told me that I couldn't do it. And I think that is such a privilege and so cool to be able to have, because even growing up, I mean, you hear these horror stories, right? Of, oh, I told my parents I wanted to do X, Y, and Z when I grow up. And they said, oh, you should do something, with that would pay you more money. And my parents really never did that with me. And trust me, I had a job in mind where they could have easily said, hey, yeah, let's do something practical. Like, let's do something that'll set you up for, a successful life. And so that's just so important to me. And what I tell everyone whenever I talk to them or people ask for advice is always have people around you that don't tell you no, or that don't put a damper on your dreams. Because if you have someone in your life or in a group of friends that do that to you, that little voice is probably always there saying, oh, can I actually do this? And I fully believe that I am where I am because I always knew I could do this because of my family and my friends and everyone around me that never said no. So I think that's what I always say when I ask, hey, who helped you get here? It's really seriously been everyone, because they always believed that I could do it.
That's so awesome.
Right?
That's so cool.
It's so nice.
What advice do you have for aspiring fantasy football or sports analysts and
Yeah.
people that are looking to get more involved in the community, in the industry?
Yeah. Any industry, fantasy football, come on over. We've got a ton of room. We always make the table bigger. If the table's not big enough, we're gonna pull up some chairs for you. Don't worry. But I would say going kind of back to college is to try try whatever you can in college to, feel comfortable in the degree that you're getting. So for sports journalism, for me, I wasn't necessarily comfortable, nor did I want to write as much as I did. I did not want to be a sports reporter. I didn't want to be a sports beat reporter, I should say. But really honing in on those skills in college is what's going to set you apart when you're applying for those, adult jobs that we have to get, unfortunately, when we graduate. So doing things like editing and being a sports reporter and doing camera work and maybe going to games and doing all that other stuff really will help you even in that moment. If you don't think it will, it always comes back around, because when I did the sports radio internship, I never thought that I would use those skills a day in my life when I left, because I wanted to be on camera. But what I didn't know was when I was using and learning those skills doing sports radio. I mean, now we're doing, we're doing Sirius XM 5 days a week, and I'm on camera and I can, speak really well, and I'm really comfortable in front of a camera because of all the things I did throughout college and throughout your internship. So I will say, no job is too big or too small. So never look at something and think it's beneath you, because it can probably help you in the future. And just always be willing and able to learn, I think, is my other one. Just be okay with learning and be comfortable feeling uncomfortable, because you're always going to feel uncomfortable going into something that you don't know. But I think something that I like to live by is knowing that to learn a new skill, you're going to be bad at it first. Probably. You can probably you're probably very talented though, and can start out really well, but you're always going to be uncomfortable when you start before you get really good at it. So just be comfortable being uncomfortable and learn as much as you can when you're there.
That's outstanding advice.
Yeah, right. I'm trying. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so much advice, but that's probably the best one for you.
That's great. How about who's going to win the NFC West?
Oh my gosh, the Seattle Seahawks, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. It's so funny too, because last year, and I hope, well, I don't hope you. I hope you were actually the absolute opposite of me, because I wrote them off last year. I said, there's no way. I'm not touching Geno Smith. I'm not going to draft, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Of course, I was like, no, there's no way. I'm not doing any of it, because I don't know how good this offense is going to be. And then Pete freaking Carroll comes out and he just says, you know what? We're going to make Geno Smith QB5 in fantasy football. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. So I do think though, that they're still going to be good. I don't think last year was a fluke for Geno Smith. I think that maybe reaching that ceiling again might be a little bit tough to repeat those expectations and end up as QB5 in fantasy football. But I do think we saw what he is capable of. So I'm really, really excited to see him. I hope you go to a game, because I can live vicariously through you this year, and you can just, send me pictures on Twitter or something while you're there. But it should be a good season. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I really think that they're going to be, highly competitive. So
I hope so.
It's awesome. So is there anything we haven't covered before we close things out here today?
Oh my gosh, no. I mean, we've had such a good time. I don't want it to end. I'm like looking around. I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll just push everything back and just don't mess with it. But no, we talked, Scott Fishbowl. We talked about the new website. It was just so fun. And I appreciate you so much for letting me come on.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here for sure. Where can the listeners find you? Tell me about all the things you're doing with fantasy life. Like, what is your role there? Like, tell me about the Sirius XM show and all that.
Yeah. So official title is nice and long, because I am the director of social media by early morning and evening into afternoon, and then in the middle of the day, senior analyst is also my other position or name on on our little cards. So we're doing Sirius XM 5 days a week, which is so fun, and I am so lucky because again we get to talk about fantasy football for 2 hours straight, and then just get to go work in the space after that. So we're doing Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. I think it's channel 87. I just started back up, so if that's wrong, don't hold me to that. But we're doing it 5 days a week, noon to 2 Eastern. Right now, we've got a lot of hosts going around with me, but I'm there every single day. And then I think we're going to get into a rotation with myself and Dwayne McFarland and Peter Overzet, which should be super fun. But talking fantasy football there, if you guys want to go check it out. And of course, the new website, fantasylife.com is what you have to go do. You have to follow us on social media at MB Fantasy Life. And then I'm just, I'm at Valenzuela 17. If you want some Mariners tweets, a lot of Mariners tweets, I'm not going to lie. And then some fantasy football sprinkled in there.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this episode.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing you at SFBLA. Obviously the expo as well, and I cannot wait, obviously, to see what you guys have in store for 2023 at Fantasy Live.
Right, it's gonna be so fun. I'm so excited to see you this week. This was the perfect little teaser to it too, because now I'm just like, yes, it's in a couple days. We're all gonna be reunited, so I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me on.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.